Hey guys, I want to take a few minutes to explain how to set up RemNux at home for the purpose of researching phishing links and doing some malware analysis. It's also a really useful tool to have in your home lab just for study in general. So the first thing we'll go ahead and do is download Virtualbox, just virtualbox.org, and click on the download link, and then you can select the appropriate version for your operating system. In this case, we're running Windows, so I'm going to download the Windows executable. Go ahead and save that, and then we can also kick off our download for RemNux. So RemNux is remnux.org. Go to that page, click on distro, and about midway here, you'll see download the RemNux virtual appliance file in the OVA format. So OVA files are kind of a universal template to create a VM without carrying a full image of that VM. So it's not quite as big a file as the end VM will be. So we're going to download that. That'll take us over to this Google Drive page. Download it from here. This is just a disclaimer saying Google didn't scan it because it's a 2 gig file. No big deal. When we're done downloading the file, if you are worried you may not have the correct file, you can verify it by just doing a quick file hash check. So in Windows, you can pull PowerShell up, change into the directory you downloaded the file to, and the command is going to be get-file hash, and then your file name, and then you specify the algorithm. In this case, it's SHA-256, since that's what they gave us for the match. So I did a compare and they are the same. So we have the correct file and it has not been corrupted or changed. So now you can go ahead and install Virtualbox using this, the exe that we downloaded, and follow the prompts as you normally would with any installation. For me, I'm going to uncheck the register file associations button and this other stuff. The register file associations, I'm doing this because I use VMware and I don't want Virtualbox to steal the file associations away from VMware. So this warning is just saying that it's going to create some new network interfaces, so your connection might bounce. I don't know if you can see the user account prompt, but go ahead and follow through all that stuff. You'll also get some pop-ups about installing drivers from Oracle. Go ahead and accept those, and when you're done, you should come to this screen. Okay, once we've installed Virtualbox, you'll be at this VM manager, and from here we are going to say import, and we're going to feed in that OVA file. So in my case, that's in the downloads directory. We'll feed that in here. Go to next, and you'll probably want to change the name. I'm going to change it to RemNux. And these other settings are completely fine where they're at. These were set up in the template, so they're ample for what we're going to be doing. Once you're ready, you click import, and this will complete in about a minute. Depending on your machine, it might take a little longer, might go a little shorter. Okay, once the import completes, you'll go back to the screen and you'll see RemNux here. State is powered off. So from here we can power on the VM and start using it, but there are a few changes that we may want to make. Alright, at this point we've completed importing the VM. We're going to make a few configuration changes for the hardware. So we can go into display first of all. We're going to set that to VBox SVGA. We're going to double check network is set to NAT, and then we're going to go into the storage tab, which is right here, and we're going to add some storage. We want to add an optical drive and give it the VBox ISO file, the guest editions ISO file. So from here, click OK, and go ahead and boot the VM. Alright, and once the VM completes booting, you're going to see a prompt window like this. You can go ahead and disregard these notifications at the top for right now. One thing to note, when you click inside of the window, you're going to see that your cursor gets locked into the window. So you can see the icon there moving around, and when it gets to the edge of the screen it just stops. Just hit the right control key on your keyboard and that'll unlock your mouse. From here, let's go ahead and do sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade, tac assume yes, and I'm using apt. You can use apt-get. Apt is just a newer version. Let's double click up here in the black section of this window to resize the screen. That's going to take a few minutes to complete, so I'll rejoin you when that's done. Okay, during my update I had some stuff come up here. This is about updating Wireshark. Just go ahead and follow the prompts and go through. There we go. Had to use the arrow keys to move around. Should non-super users be able to capture packets? Sure, why not? We had another prompt pop up here. This is asking to update the sudoers config file. Tell it no, and continue on. Alright, so once your apt update and apt upgrade completes, we can move on to the next step. From here, we're going to want to start the installation process for VMware tools, or rather Virtualbox guest editions. So that is going to involve a few commands. We'll need to mount the CD-ROM, and we'll also need to install some dependencies prior to launching the installer script. So let's start that by doing the mount. So sudo mount dev/dev/CD-ROM, and we'll just throw that over to mnt mount. So from there we can do a cd to mnt, and if we do a list, there we go. We can see we have the disk drive mounted. And from here we'll go ahead and handle the dependencies that we need to install. So we're going to say sudo apt install tac y to automatically say yes when it prompts us, dkms build essential Linux headers generic and Linux headers $, paren uname space tac r close paren, and there's one more I'm going to throw in here, the Virtualbox tac guest. It helps if you spell correctly, dkms. So we'll go ahead and run that. And I'll take this opportunity to point out now that I'm using apt instead of apt-get. Really the only difference I'm aware of is you get a nice little progress bar here showing you how far you are through the total installation. Alright, so our installation for apt has completed. Now we can go ahead and run the installer that's on the disk image. So it recommends you run this as root and not with sudo, so I'm gonna switch user to root. Okay, so now I'm root, and I'm gonna say /vbox Linux editions and run that. We will say yes. This is just telling us that we've already got some of the components installed. And we'll let that run, and I'll pick back up when it finishes. Alright, so that's complete, and we should see a message saying starting Virtualbox guest edition service. So from here we're ready to go ahead, and let's just check some things. First, you can see that the mouse is actually now working in a better way. It doesn't freeze at the end of the screen. You don't have to hit the control key to escape the mouse anymore. The other thing I want to check is up here. Auto resize guest display is grayed out. That just means that we need to do a reboot. So I'm going to exit back to the standard user. So we'll just say exit, and it helps if you spell it right. And then I will say reboot. So this will take a second or two to reboot. And when it does that, we should see that we have some options that we didn't have prior. So if I come back up here to view, auto resize is still grayed out, but if we come in here and we say preferences, monitor settings, okay, it's locked in at 640 by 480. Looks like it's still not working quite right, so let's do a sudo apt install tac-f. See if we can find any broken dependencies. It doesn't look like there are any. So we should have this option. Let's do one more reboot. And the machine's rebooting. Okay, we can see the resolution has changed a little bit, and now this option is no longer grayed out. So that should tell me that we now will get the screen to resize for us. Again, we'll just double check that this box is ticked. We can minimize the window and then double click to resize it. Still not working. I'm going to take a look at our settings again. Set to auto. So let's do yet another reboot. This time we'll do a full shutdown. Okay, and from here we're going to kick it back on and cross our fingers. You can go ahead and disregard these notifications up here. And now you can see after that final reboot, it resized to the proper dimensions and we are good to go. So from here you have a full suite of tools that you can use for analysis and inspection of web pages and files and all sorts of stuff. Okay, so now that we've gone through all that work, we're going to take a snapshot and we will use this as our home plate so that we can revert the machine to a known clean state if we ever need to. So fresh install, yeah, we'll call it fresh install with all VM tools. Okay, so that's going to take a snapshot of the machine. If you ever have any issues with the VM, then you can revert to that snapshot and you're good to go. So hopefully this has been informative for you and you were able to follow along.